they had recommended an increase in the age range for those who should be using AstraZeneca from 50 to 60 and above.
Tonight, breaking news, Melburnians begin to enjoy more eased restrictions as the Chief Health Officer faces criticism over his trip to Canberra. Hopes this could be the city's last ever lockdown, but that's relying on a smooth vaccine rollout, which just received another blow. It's Sunday the 20th of June, you're watching 6 News also tonight.
Strong leadership also means that you show compassion once in a while. And most of the ministers who have spoken out have had the ministerial discretion to put that family back home.
Not enough. Activists call on the Morrison government to let the Billa family return to their home in central Queensland rather than community detention in Perth. But Peter Dutton, the man who has long argued that they should be sent back to Sri Lanka, is now expressing his frustration. And not so friendly, New South Wales police slammed for an apparent overreach in their arrest of a producer for comedian and YouTuber Friendlyjordies. Is this an attack on free speech? We'll bring you the latest reaction coming from all over Australia.
As of right now, apparently it's okay for YouTubers' producers to be violently arrested by a Gestapo.
Good evening, thanks for joining us this Sunday evening. We'll be showing you a lot more reaction about the arrest of that Friendlyjordies producer shortly. That was Matthew Hayne. You saw towards the end of the opener there, someone who we've spoken to before and someone who's spoken about us and to myself. Go subscribe to his channel, by the way, and of course, make sure you do subscribe to us. We've got plenty of breaking news to get to shortly, but first tonight, millions of people in Melbourne are right now enjoying more eased restrictions as coronavirus cases remain relatively low across Victoria. Melburnians can now have up to 2 people in their homes per day plus dependents, along with public gatherings of up to 20 people, while regional Victorians are now able to have 5 people in their homes. It's now prompted some to say that this latest lockdown could be the city's and the state's last ever, but that depends on how the vaccine rollout goes. And according to a fair few people, it's not good. New advice about AstraZeneca's COVID-19 jab has caused confusion amongst many Aussies, and an emergency national cabinet meeting will now be held tomorrow to deal with the situation. Senior reporter Darby Travers has the latest on what we can expect to hear.
Victoria has recorded another so-called donut day with no new locally acquired COVID-19 cases overnight. The Department of Health says just over 12,000 vaccine doses were administered and 19,500 test results were also received. It comes after the Chief Health Officer Brett Sutton defended his decision to fly to Canberra for a work event, while much of the state was still restricted from travelling, but has still admitted some regret, saying, quote, "I was disappointed that the distraction was about me and not about the important meeting." Acting Premier James Merlino also defended the move, saying Sutton's decision was an appropriate work-related event. Interstate, a woman has tested positive to COVID in Queensland, with a flight crew member recording a positive test after completing 14 days of quarantine. Despite this, restrictions in the state have eased for indoor venues, and Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk says that it will be mandatory to use the Check-in Queensland contact tracing app at shopping centres, food courts, open houses, hairdressers, casinos, theme parks and caravan parks from 1 a.m. on July 9.
I don't want the community to be alarmed at this stage, because the woman was only out in the community for a short period of time. So Dr. Young will give the list of venues where she was. She had just finished her 14 days of hotel quarantine and tested positive after she left quarantine. So Dr. Young will give an update, but there are some areas of concern, especially DFO, and also she attended the Portuguese Family Centre in Ellen Grove. So Dr. Young will be giving an update, and we really need people who were at those venues for these specific periods of time to go home and then get tested. That's really, really important because we want to continue to keep the community safe.
And tomorrow, an emergency national cabinet meeting will be held to determine the next stage of Australia's vaccine rollout after the federal government revealed that AstraZeneca's dose should only be taken by those over 60 amid fears of rare blood clots in people who have already had the jab.
Now, Darby briefly touched on it there, but we should reiterate, this is the advice from authorities in Australia about COVID-19 vaccines. If you are under 60, you're being told to get Pfizer's jab, but if you are over 60, you're being told to now get AstraZeneca's jab. Now, this is the part that caused a lot of confusion and even some worry. What do you do if you're under 60 but have already received one AstraZeneca jab based on the previous advice? Well, we now have an answer. Federal health authorities say to get your second AZ jab if you have not experienced any major side effects or health issues. Of course, if you'd like something about the vaccine rollout or any other story fact check, make sure you do tag or DM us on social media and head to our fact checking playlist on YouTube for more. And we'll be bringing you special coverage as well of tomorrow's emergency national cabinet meeting right here on 6 News and at our website 6news.au.com. To other news tonight, in Sydney's new coronavirus outbreak has been linked back to an airport limousine driver now being considered the cluster's index case. New South Wales Chief Health Officer Kerry Chant told reporters that the Bondi man, who also tested positive, spent time in the same section of a department store as the driver, but did not at any point have direct contact. His symptoms began on Tuesday and visited venues in Redfern, Newtown, Bondi Junction and Campbelltown, and also travelled on a train from Newtown to Bondi whilst infectious. The latest list of exposure sites is currently on the New South Wales Health website. Not enough. That's the message from many activists after the federal government's decision to allow the Tamil asylum seeker family to live in community detention in Perth rather than on Christmas Island. A new 6 News poll conducted on Twitter shows that around 90% of you think the family should be allowed to live in Biloela. Now, while those may not be the exact results and views of the general public, it's certainly a growing perspective. Another reader poll published by the Canberra Times says 83% of respondents calling for them to go back home. And of course, share your thoughts in the comments section by using hashtag 6NewsAU, but there is still opposition. While a lot of the recent spotlight has been on Home Affairs Minister Karen Andrews, the minister she took over from is also weighing in. Peter Dutton, who has long argued that the family should be sent back to Sri Lanka, has expressed his frustration in an interview with Nine, saying, quote, "This family has not ever been found to be owed protection."
It was clearly an attempt to have their cake and eat it too. You know, it was like, how can we appease people who we think are hard on boat people, and how can we appease the people who are surprisingly coming out and horrified that a 4-year-old has blood poisoning and it took this long to get her medical attention? You know, the fact of the matter is that, yes, we do have to have border control. Unfortunately, terrorism, it does exist in the world and we have to be sensible. But just because, strong leadership also means that you show compassion once in a while. And most of the ministers who have spoken out have had the ministerial discretion to put that family back home. It's the fact that they keep going out on press conferences telling us what they're not going to do. And the reality is that they need to grow a pair and realize that they can do it, first of all. So I don't blame them if they're probably too dumb to know that they can actually do it. That's a possibility, but they can do it, and they can stick that family back where, they belong in that community, which frankly is happy to have them. And this is a case where, they've been good members of the community. It really is a matter, I think, at this point of forcing them to see, like, hey, mate, re-election, she's coming up. If you don't put that family back, we're not voting for you. And unfortunately, even though that's sick to kind of think like that, it seems to have been the only sort of, thing that has worked so far.
Ben Robert-Smith has claimed he made a mistake in giving evidence about the death of an Afghan man with a prosthetic leg. Australia's most decorated soldier told the judge in his defamation case just a few days ago that he shot a suspected enemy who ran around a corner of a compound carrying a weapon as he went outside. The ABC reports that he gave evidence that an unarmed colleague shot a second enemy before both soldiers dragged away the body they shot so it wasn't out in the open, but he's now clarified that upon, quote, reflecting on the evidence, saying he realised that actually he left the second body where it fell. Robert Smith is currently suing 3 newspapers, The Age, the Sydney Morning Herald and the Canberra Times, over reports of alleged war crimes. We're now approaching week 3 of the trial. We've got all the latest developments on our YouTube channel right now. Just search 6 News Australia to find it. Overseas now, Pornhub is being sued by 34 women for allegedly profiting from videos of rape and the sexual exploitation of minors. The adult video website has been accused by lawyers for the almost 3 dozen women of, quote, creating a teeming marketplace for child pornography and every other form of non-consensual sexual consent. They now want the company to pay damages. The ABC reports that Serena Fleeters, the only plaintiff to be named, says that in 2014 she learned that a, quote, nude sexually explicit video that her boyfriend had coerced her to make when she was only 13 had been uploaded onto the website without her consent, and the video remained online until the teen, posing as her mother, asked Pornhub to remove it. According to the suit, MindGeek owns more than 100 pornographic sites, including Pornhub, as well as RedTube, Tube8 and YouPorn, and sees some 3.5 billion visits each month. Well, back home, the arrest of a producer for comedian and YouTuber Friendlyjordies has been slammed by people on all sides of politics as a major overreach by authorities. Christo Lanka was arrested earlier this month by New South Wales Police's Fixated Persons Unit, which was set up in 2017 to target dangerous lone actors who pose a risk of serious violence. That move has been slammed as against the right of a free press following a number of videos made on the Friendlyjordies channel about New South Wales Deputy Premier John Barilaro, who's been labelled corrupt and been called on to resign. Reporter Lincoln Holmes says everything you need to know.
Take my phone. Take my phone. Don't you...
The arrest of a producer for comedian and YouTuber Friendlyjordies has been slammed by people on all sides of politics as a massive overreach by New South Wales Police.
I'm not saying that Barilaro's some crazy Gestapo dude, no. But it's a domino effect. And if we don't do anything now, then who knows where we could be in 10, 20 years.
As of right now, apparently it's okay for YouTubers' producers to be violently arrested by a Gestapo.
Who made that call? Who made that decision to get this employee of a YouTuber arrested?
Yeah, no worries, John. I'll arrest the mean YouTuber's employee. All right, you're under arrest. Whoop!
Christo Lanka was arrested at his family home on the 4th of June by officers from the state's Fixated Persons Unit. His lawyers allege Lanka's mother was assaulted during the arrest and slammed what they described as utterly extreme bail conditions, which banned their client from possessing images or videos of John Barilaro. The New South Wales Deputy Premier is currently suing Friendlyjordies, whose real name is Jordan Shanks, for defamation over a number of videos in which he was labelled corrupt and claims were racist.
Bruz himself has threatened to sue.
But the arrest has been slammed as an attack on the free press and the work of the YouTube comedian. Just a few days after the news of the arrest became public, a Facebook group with more than 33,000 members ran by Mr. Shawns was banned, with Crikey reporting it may have been because of an image of Adolf Hitler, which was not linked to the arrest or defamation trial. Friendlyjordies has been accused of hypocrisy by some online over previous comments made in 2019 about the AFP raids on News Corp journalists and the ABC.
I don't feel sorry for them when they go, what happened to freedom of press? What do you mean by that? Anyone that isn't them, they don't care. But as soon as they're personally attacked, what happened to democracy? Cry bloody murder. One thing that happened to them that they didn't like.
Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
A public inquiry has slammed security faults before the 2017 Manchester Arena attack in the UK. 22 people were killed when Salman Abedi detonated a bomb in a suicide attack as thousands of fans, many of them children and young people, were leaving the Ariana Grande concert. The man leading the ongoing inquiry, retired Judge John Saunders, said Abedi should have been identified as a threat by those in charge of security, adding, quote, had that occurred, I consider it likely that Salman Abedi would have still detonated his device, but the loss of life and injury is highly likely to have been less. The findings are part of 3 planned reports into the bombing, with the others set to look at the emergency response and whether the attack could have been prevented in the first place. A plane has collapsed at Heathrow Airport. Images posted online show the 787-8's Boeing jet's front wheel completely collapsed, sending the cockpit straight into the tarmac. A British Airways spokesperson confirmed to The Independent that no one was on board the aircraft when the incident occurred, and it did not delay any flights. The extent of the damage sustained by the aircraft is currently unknown. Well, no one ever said launching a news outlet was easy. I should know. But in the 24/7 market, it's a whole different game. And one new news channel in the UK is capturing a lot of attention, but for all the wrong reasons. GB News, launched by respected journalist Andrew Neil on Sunday, has already faced some advertisers pulling their commercials because of the content, but that's been overshadowed by a mountain of technical failures. A Twitter account dedicated to talking about the channel's failures has gained over 60,000 followers in just 5 days, and that number keeps growing as the lighting, audio and camera issues continue. Chief Reporter Connor our 4K takes a look at what we've seen so far.
No one ever said launching a news channel was easy, but 1 week into GB News, the main focus isn't on the channel's content, rather the on-air fails. The UK channel, launched by journalist Andrew Neil, was touted as a news outlet that would give a voice to the voiceless and push back against the existing mainstream outlets that have been labelled woke and biased by many British conservatives. But when tuning in to GB News, most of what they've seen is a mountain of technical failures, whether that's with their audio, lighting, cameras, or graphics. Critics have already said that GB News is sinking faster than the RMS Titanic, and that it won't even last a year. Advertisers are already being pressured to stop airing commercials on the channel over alleged COVID misinformation. Some already have. Former BBC newsreader Simon McCoy was one of the biggest names announced for the channel. However, social media users reckon he's regretting being there amid all the failures. A Twitter account dedicated to highlighting the failures has gotten over 50,000 followers in just 5 days, and the hashtag GBNewsFailures has trended on Twitter at #1 in the UK, as the channel attempts to do its best to explain what's gone wrong. Connor Al 4K, 6 News.
Former White House physician Dr. Ronnie Jackson has called on US President Joe Biden to immediately undergo a cognitive test. Jackson, along with 13 of his GOP colleagues, have sent a letter to Biden expressing quote-unquote concern with his cognitive state and cited several examples of potential memory lapses, including, according to Fox News, apparently forgetting the name of his defense secretary, telling an Amtrak story with a timeline that seemingly didn't add up, and also blanking on the often quoted line of the Declaration of Independence, the first line there. Jackson told Sean Hannity that, quote, "We can't sit on this any longer," and claimed that Biden is not physically or cognitively fit to be president right now. Former US Vice President Mike Pence has been heckled and slammed as a traitor for his refusal to overturn last year's election results during a speech to a gathering of religious conservatives, while at the same time rumours float around about him running in 2024, potentially against his former boss, Donald Trump. Take a look.
It is great to be back with so many patriots, dedicated to faith and freedom and the road to the majority. And I want to thank my friend Ralph Reed for those overly generous words. I'm deeply humbled by them. Ralph Reed knows me well enough to know the introduction I prefer is a little bit shorter. I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican in that order, and I am honored to stand before you today.
Back home now, and 6 News can confirm that a viral photo circulating on Twitter of Victorian Liberal MP Tim Smith is edited. The image, understood to have originated from the account Occupy MyGov, is an edited screenshot from a video uploaded to Mr. Smith's Vimeo account to make the MP seem larger than he actually is. Earlier, the user defended the image, which they described as an actual picture, saying, quote, "I'm not allowed to attack Tim Smith's policies because some lefties think I'm attacking his appearance, despite me never actually mentioning it." Okay then. Mr. Smith is one of the biggest critics of Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews, who is currently on leave until June 28. Alright, now is Ivan and Sarah with a look at what's coming up later tonight on WAMN News.
Thanks, Leo. Coming up on WAMN News, local firearm experts debunk state government's claims of gel blasters' danger in an exclusive demonstration.
New claims of police racism and brutality after an African woman was left traumatised by a violent arrest.
Mark Duncan Smith to take over as Western Australia's new top doctor.
Senior furry friends need your help to find a new home, plus Dr. Andrew Miller's weekly comment. Join us after 5:30 on the WAMN News Facebook page.
Alright, thanks to both Ivan and Sarah there. Now to tomorrow's forecast right across the country. Brisbane partly cloudy, a top of 22. Light rain and 16 in Sydney. 14 degrees in the nation's capital. Also 14 in Melbourne. 12 degrees in Hobart. 15 and sunny in Adelaide. 19 in Alice Springs. 14 in Perth. A chance of some light showers. And in Darwin, a warm top of 32. And finally tonight, we don't usually report on celebrity couples here on 6 News, but we do report on politics, so this story I think's worth a mention. New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian has a new boyfriend. A spokesperson confirmed to the Daily Telegraph that she has officially begun a relationship with the same lawyer who represented her in last year's ICAC inquiry. That man is, of course, Arthur Moses, with the Premier's sister Mary Berejiklian posting an image of the pair onto her Instagram account. What's particularly interesting is that one of the main parts of that ICAC inquiry was all about the dealings of the New South Wales Premier's ex-lover, disgraced former Liberal MP Daryl Maguire. That is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with the latest headlines by heading to our website, 6newsau.com, and by following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Lit. Just search 6 News AU to find us. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.